most inaccurate thing your child was taught at school? My daughter came home from first grade absolutely convinced that squirrels were nocturnal animals. I have no idea where her teacher got this idea, because we live in a city park and our yard is constantly full of squirrels doing squirrel things during the day. I tried to explain it to her. Honey, we see squirrels every day. They're always running around in the sunshine. She just looked at me with this dead serious face and said, but Mrs. Davison said squirrels sleep during the day and come out at night. I figured maybe it was a one-time thing, a weird slip of the tongue. But no, it kept coming up. She'd draw pictures of squirrels under the moon, insist on reading books about nocturnal animals to find squirrels, and even tried to leave out nuts on our porch at midnight for them. Finally, I emailed Mrs. Davison. I was super polite, just saying my daughter seemed to have gotten the idea that squirrels were nocturnal, and maybe we could clarify it in class. Mrs. Davison doubled down. She responded saying squirrels were crepuscular, active primarily at dawn and dusk. Which, okay, there's some truth to that, but she also stated flatly they retreated to their nests during daylight hours. I forwarded her a picture I took that morning of 5 squirrels having a party in our bird feeder at 10 a.m. Never got a response. My daughter eventually figured it out on her own, but for a solid month, she was convinced the entire squirrel population was living a lie. Quote,
When did you have a bad feeling about someone and it turned out to be right? I met this guy Mark through a mutual friend. He was charming, funny, and seemed really into me right away. But something felt off. He was too perfect, you know? Like he was trying to be exactly what I wanted. I chalked it up to nerves at first, but the feeling just wouldn't go away. We went on a few dates, and he started love-bombing me. Constant texts, lavish gifts, talking about our future together after knowing me for 2 weeks. It was intense. My friends were all like, wow, he's really into you. But my gut was screaming danger. One night, I decided to snoop a little. I know, not my finest moment. I found his social media, and there were pictures with another woman from like a week before we met. They looked serious. I confronted him, and he denied everything, said she was just a friend. But I knew he was lying. I ended things right there. Turns out he was engaged to that woman and had a whole other life he conveniently forgot to mention. My bad feelings saved me from a whole lot of heartbreak and drama. What is the best financial advice you ever received? Honestly, the best financial advice I ever got was super simple. Pay yourself first. It sounds a bit selfish, but it's really about prioritizing your future. Before I heard that, I was in the habit of paying all my bills, going out with friends, buying stuff I wanted, and then, if there was anything left over, putting it into savings. Of course, there was rarely anything left over, but then a friend told me to treat my savings like a bill. Figure out how much you can reasonably save each month, even if it's just a small amount, and then automatically transfer that money into a savings or investment account before you start spending on anything else. It's like tricking yourself into saving. Now, instead of wondering if I have money left to save at the end of the month, I'm wondering how I can make my budget work around times my savings. It's made a huge difference in my financial stability and reduced so much money stress. Have you ever seen anyone get fired on the spot? I was working at a big electronics store like a Best Buy during the holiday season. It was absolute chaos, lines wrapped around the building, everyone stressed to the max. We had this new guy, Kyle, in customer service. He was a bit of a space cadet, always talking about obscure hacking forums and how he could trick systems. One afternoon, a customer came up trying to return a really expensive gaming laptop. No original box, no receipt, just the bare laptop. Kyle, without blinking, processed the full cash refund. Our manager, Brenda, who usually had the situational awareness of a rock, happened to walk by just as he hit enter. She stopped dead. This laptop model was notorious for being swapped out for older components before returns. Brenda pulled Kyle aside, quiet as a mouse. I heard her say, "You know what you just did, right?" He just shrugged, like it was nothing. Her voice dropped to an icy whisper as she told him to grab his stuff, and security would escort him out. No yelling, no scene, just a cold, immediate dismissal. It was utterly chilling.
What is the most shameless double-cross you have ever witnessed? It was a few years back. We were trying to get a small independent music festival off the ground in our town. Kind of a smaller, more local version of a Lollapalooza, but focused on local artists and raising money for a community art center. My buddy Mark was the engine behind it. I'm talking months of tireless work. He was the one calling every venue, dealing with permits, chasing down sponsors, even negotiating with the city for the park space. He slept maybe 4 hours a night for weeks, living on coffee and the dream. Then there was Liam. Liam was the charismatic face of the operation. He was great at pitching the idea, smooth-talking potential investors, and schmoozing with the bands. He'd show up for the big meetings, give a dazzling presentation, and then disappear, leaving Mark to actually implement everything he'd promised. The festival day itself was a massive success, more people than we'd ever hoped for. Mark was practically buzzing, despite being dead on his feet. The crowd was amazing, the music was great, everything was perfect, right up until the closing ceremony. Liam gets on stage, mic in hand, beaming. He launches into this long, self-congratulatory speech. He thanked his team in a general way, but then went into detail about his vision, his sleepless nights, his personal sacrifices, to bring this dream to life. He even mentioned specific things Mark had busted his ass on, like the custom stage backdrop, and spun them as, quote, his creative direction. The kicker? He announced the formation of the Liam Foundation to continue his work and encouraged everyone to donate directly to that for future festivals, completely sidelining the community arts center we were supposed to be raising money for. Mark was standing backstage, looking like he'd been hit by a truck. It was public, undeniable, and utterly devastating. Liam walked away with all the credit and a decent chunk of the cash, leaving Mark with the cleanup and a mountain of unpaid bills he'd personally guaranteed. It was the most blatant, cold-blooded credit theft I've ever seen.